What's going on, everybody? Marvel the Cross 316 back with another video. Today we're going over the 4 principles to follow when buying graded comic books. And this is what I call the Fab 4 principles. The first principle is you need to know your budget. We all live on a budget. We all have finances that we have to deal with in life, whether it be with taking care of our family members or if you're living on your own. You have to have a budget, and you need to know your budget because these comic books are expensive, as you will soon find out when you go to buy these comic books, either at your local comic book shop or on eBay. And the second one is you need to know the key issues. And so once you have your budget down and narrowed down, you need to know what the key issues are. Because let's just be honest, when you're buying a graded issue of a particular issue of a comic book, you want to have it in a first appearance or a death of a character. You want it to be a key issue because you're thinking of the future investment value that you're going to be placing into this purchase that you're going to make. You could buy a graded comic book that has no significance, but a majority of collectors want these first appearances because of the investment value that they hold. And so it is good to know the key issues, their first appearances, and it's pretty easy to do that once you get into the hobby. The third one is you need to look for deals at your LCS or online. And an easy way to do that is just to go to your local comic book shop, see if they have some graded comic books. If they don't, then your best option is to shop on eBay. And then you need to just look for good deals on eBay or whatever online website you're using. It could be mycomicbookshop.com or other outlets. But you need to be looking for deals that fall within your budget. So let's say you have a $100 budget, and every month you want to spend $100 on a graded comic book. Well, you go online on eBay and you just look at some prices to see if there are any deals that fit within that budget. So always look for deals because they're out there. And then the fourth one is have a grading criteria list to follow for each era. Once you get into the hobby, you realize that there are certain eras for comic books: the golden era, silver era, bronze, and then of course modern. And so let's go over my graded criteria list that I use whenever I go online or go to my LCS to look for graded comic books. I have a graded criteria list, and these are basically the grades that I'm looking for whenever I'm looking at certain dates of comic books, because some comic books are more rare than others, and like I said, we're looking for key issues. And we're starting off the bat here. We have early Silver Age, starting from 1956 to 1962. Now, if you have a $100 budget, it's going to be pretty impossible to find any Silver Age book that's $100 or less. It's just pretty impossible. Even in these low grades, as you see here, 1.5 to 2.0, pretty impossible. So you need to know that coming into this hobby, if you're looking for early Silver Age, then you're going to have to spend some mega bucks, because within the early Silver Age, we have like Amazing Fantasy 15, you have Fantastic Four #1, Hulk #1, some of these mega gem comic books that everybody wants. Those are some of the books that fall within this category. And if I'm looking for graded comic books that fall into the early Silver Age category, I want to go around this range, 1.5 to 2.0, because I think those grades not only are the most manageable to get, but they're also present pretty well, in my opinion. And coming up next, we have early to mid Silver Age. So whenever I am looking for comic books that fall within the dates of 1963 to 1965, I want them to be either 2.5 to 4.5. So as we see, as we're going up and up in the dates here, or the years, following 1962, then the grades are starting to go up as well, because it's more manageable once we go through the years to get higher grades. It's much more impossible and much more expensive to get higher grade books in the early Silver Age to Silver Age in general. I'm just letting y'all know right off the bat that it's pretty impossible to find like a 7.0 to 8.0 that's not over probably $30,000 or so. So just have that in mind. And this is just a general list that I'm using. So that's the category I'm looking for when I'm looking for books from 1963 to 1965. I want them to fall between 2.5 to 4.5. When we get to the late Silver Age, that's 1966 to 1969, I'm looking for comic books that fall between a 5.0 to a 6.0. I think when you think about the investment value, that's manageable. I think those grades are not only accessible in those grades, they present well, but I think they also have a great investment return whenever you're trying to sell those books again. And so that's what you need to keep in mind too. Can I get a good investment on the graded books that I'm purchasing? And I think if you follow this list, then you'll possibly get your returns back and maybe make a profit from what you've purchased. We get to the early to mid Bronze Age, 1970 to 1975. We bump it up to a 6.5 to a 7.0. Obviously, if I find a deal on eBay and some of these books are in better condition than a 7.0, of course, if it's for a good deal and it's in a higher grade, I'm going to go for it. But generally, I'm looking for a 6.5 to 7.0 when it comes to the early to mid Bronze Age. We get to the late Bronze Age. Those years comprise 1976 to 1983, and the grades go even higher, 7.0 to 8.5. So once again, we're getting to the late Bronze Age, and typically I find that the late Bronze Age is much more accessible, a lot more cheaper than the previous era, which was the Silver Age. Those books are beginning to become more manageable to get because we're getting on the tail end of the Bronze Age and we're getting close to the Copper Age, which is 1984 to 1991. Now these books are all over eBay. You can find a lot of these Copper Age books like Amazing Spider-Man 252, all these Amazing Spider-Mans like 300 falls into this category as well. Tons of 9.8s, but a 9.8 of an Amazing Spider-Man 300 is very expensive. I'll just let y'all know it's pretty expensive on eBay. And so for my budget, I'm thinking 8.5 to a 9.2. The books not only presents well in these grades, but I think it's a cheaper price and a manageable price for the Copper Age. And lastly, we have the Modern Age, and that's 1992 to the present. And when it comes to the Modern Age, we need to keep in mind that in the 90s, there was a massive print run of most of the titles. Millions of copies were printed during the 90s, and a lot of these copies fall into the near mint minus to near mint plus range. And so you want to get these books between a 9.2 and a 9.8 because there's so many out there, and if you get anything below a 9.2, you're not going to get your money back when you try to sell that graded book. I'm just being honest. You need to look for Modern Age books between a 9.2 and a 9.8 whenever you're looking for these Modern Age books. But these are just a guideline to follow. You do not have to follow this guideline. This is just a suggestion, but I just wanted to throw that out there that whenever I'm going on eBay or any other website to buy graded comic books, this is what I'm using. This is like a criteria I'm using to look for whenever I'm purchasing a graded book. I'm always keeping in mind my budget, as always, and I'm thinking about the deals. Are there good deals out there? And of course, there are. Always try to find these graded books in a price range that's good for you and you're not breaking the bank. Those are my tips for today. I hope you liked this video, and I will see y'all next time.